Welcome back to Learn English Naturally. Today we're taking a deep dive into English for public transportation.
It's a topic that's essential for anyone who wants to travel with ease.
Yeah, so whether you're dreaming of hopping on a red double-decker bus in London,
Or navigating the bustling subway systems of New York.
we've got you covered.
That's right. We'll be focusing on practical phrases and dialogues that will help you feel confident and prepared to tackle any public transportation scenario.
Okay, let's imagine you've just arrived in a new city, and your adventure begins with the subway. It can be a bit overwhelming.
It can be.
Where do you even start?
Well, first things first, you need to find the nearest subway station.
Right.
Excuse me, where's the closest subway station? Is a great phrase to use. Remember to be polite and make eye contact when asking for help.
Makes sense. Now let's talk about tickets. I've definitely had moments of confusion trying to figure out fare systems in different countries. What are some key phrases we should know?
Well, how much is a single ticket to your destination is a good starting point. You can also ask, do you have any day passes or travel cards if you plan on using public transport frequently? Remember, some cities have different ticket options, so it's always wise to inquire.
Yeah, that reminds me of a time I was in Tokyo. I ended up buying a multi-day pass that saved me a ton of money compared to buying individual tickets each time.
Exactly. It's worth taking a moment to understand the fare structure. Now, once you have your ticket, you need to find the right platform. Which platform is for the train line to your destination will help you get on the right track, literally.
And while we're at it, let's talk about those digital displays that show upcoming trains. Sometimes I find myself staring at them, utterly bewildered.
Yes, deciphering those displays can be a challenge. You'll want to look for your destination and the estimated arrival time. If you see any unfamiliar abbreviations, don't hesitate to ask a station employee.
Yeah, it's amazing how those little abbreviations can vary so much from city to city. Okay, so we've found our platform and boarded the train. Now what? Are there any etiquette tips we should be aware of?
Public transportation etiquette can differ across cultures, but there are some general rules to keep in mind. For instance, it's generally considered polite to offer your seat to elderly passengers, pregnant women, or people with disabilities.
It's a small gesture that can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Also, be mindful of your belongings. Keep your bags close to you and avoid blocking aisles or doorways.
And let's not forget about noise levels. I've been on trains where people were having loud conversations, and it can be quite disruptive.
Yes, definitely. It's considerate to keep your voice down when talking on the phone or with your travel companions. Headphones are a must if you want to listen to music or podcasts.
Speaking of podcasts, I once overheard someone listening to our show on the subway. It was a surreal moment.
That's fantastic. It's great to know that people are learning English with us on the go.
Okay, we've covered the subway basics. Now let's switch gears and talk about buses.
Okay. Buses are a common mode of transport in many cities, and they offer a great way to see the sights.
True. I love how you can often get a glimpse of local life while riding the bus. But how do we figure out which bus to take and where to get off?
Well, excuse me, does this bus go to your destination? Is a good question to ask at the bus stop. And once you're on board, could you please tell me when we reach your destination? Is a helpful way to ensure you don't miss your stop.
That's especially useful if the stops aren't announced or if you're unfamiliar with the area.
And speaking of asking for help, what if we accidentally get on the wrong bus?
Don't panic. It happens to the best of us. You can politely say, "Excuse me, I think I'm on the wrong bus. Could you please tell me when to get off to go back?"
It's a good reminder that it's okay to make mistakes and ask for help when we need it. What about paying the fare on a bus? Are there any specific phrases we should know?
You can simply ask, "How much is the fare?" or "Do you accept payment method?" Some buses have exact fare systems, so it's always a good idea to have small bills or coins handy. Yeah, those exact fare systems can be tricky, especially if you're new to a city. I remember once trying to pay with a large bill on a bus in San Francisco, and the driver gave me a very perplexed look.
Oh, it's all part of the travel adventure. Now let's delve into a topic that can be a bit challenging. Transferring between different modes of transportation.
Okay, transfers can be confusing, even in cities you're familiar with. What kind of phrases can help us navigate those transfer points?
If you're at a subway station and need to transfer to a bus, you can ask, where can I catch the bus to your destination? Or do I need a separate ticket for the bus? Or is my subway ticket valid?
Yeah, that's a smart question to ask. I've definitely encountered situations where my initial ticket covered multiple modes of transport. But sometimes you do need a separate ticket. It's always best to clarify.
Precisely. Clear communication can save you a lot of hassle and potential fines. Speaking of potentially tricky situations, let's talk about what to do if we miss our stop. It's happened to all of us, right?
Oh, absolutely. I've been so engrossed in a book or lost in thought that I've sailed right past my destination. What's the best course of action in that scenario?
First of all, don't panic. Calmly approach the driver or a fellow passenger and say, "Excuse me, I think I missed my stop. Can you please tell me how to get back?" Most people are willing to help, especially if you're polite and apologetic.
I like that you emphasize staying calm. It's easy to get flustered when you're in unfamiliar surroundings, but keeping a cool head definitely helps.
Yes, definitely. And while we're on the topic of needing assistance, let's talk about asking for directions. Sometimes, even with the best laid plans, we find ourselves a bit lost.
Oh, it's true. I've had moments where I've emerged from a subway station and had absolutely no idea which direction to go. It's like stepping into a maze.
I can relate. In those situations, it's helpful to have a few key phrases up your sleeve. You can approach someone and say, "Excuse me, I'm a bit lost. Could you please point me in the direction of landmark or destination?"
And if you have a map, even better, you can say, "Excuse me, could you please show me where I am on this map?"
Exactly. Visual aids can be really helpful when asking for directions. And don't be afraid to ask follow-up questions to ensure you understand the directions clearly.
Yeah, sometimes just a slight nod and a thank you isn't enough.
Hmm.
I've learned that it's better to err on the side of over-communicating when asking for directions. It can save you a lot of backtracking.
I agree. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Now let's shift our focus to a few additional scenarios that might come up during your public transportation adventures. For instance, what if you're running late and need to know if you've missed the last train or bus?
Oh, that's a classic travel dilemma. I've definitely had those heart-stopping moments staring at a timetable, wondering if I've missed my connection. What phrases can we use in this situation?
"Excuse me, what time is the last train bus to destination?" is a straightforward way to get the information you need. Or if you're unsure about the frequency of service, you can ask, "How often do the train's buses run?"
It's also helpful to know how to ask about delays or cancellations. Are there any delays on the train line bus route? Or is the train bus to destination running on schedule? Are good phrases to have in your repertoire.
Those are excellent points. Being prepared for unexpected situations can help you stay calm and find alternative solutions. Now let's delve into a specific aspect of public transportation that often confuses travelers: ticket validation.
Ah, yes. Ticket validation machines. They can be a bit intimidating, especially when you're not sure how they work. What's the best approach?
If you see a ticket validation machine, it's generally a good idea to use it. If you're unsure, you can always ask a station employee, "Excuse me, do I need to validate my ticket here?"
And if you're using a contactless payment method like a smartphone or travel card, you might need to tap it on a designated reader.
Right. Look for signage that indicates where to tap or insert your card. If you encounter any difficulties, don't hesitate to ask for assistance.
It's always better to ask than to risk getting into trouble for not validating your ticket properly.
Absolutely. And speaking of potential problems, let's talk about what to do if you lose your ticket. It's a nightmare scenario, but it's important to be prepared.
I can imagine the feeling of dread sinking in as you realize your ticket is gone. What steps can we take in this situation?
First, try retracing your steps and checking any bags or pockets thoroughly. If you still can't find it, you'll need to approach a station employee and explain the situation. You can say, "Excuse me, I've lost my ticket. What should I do?"
I've heard that in some cities you might have to purchase a new ticket, while in others they might be able to issue a replacement. It probably varies depending on the transportation system's policies.
Yes, that's right. It's always a good idea to familiarize yourself with the local regulations regarding lost tickets. And it's a good reminder to keep your ticket safe and easily accessible throughout your journey.
Yeah, perhaps a dedicated pocket in your bag or a special compartment in your wallet. Now let's move on to a topic that's especially relevant for those who are new to a city: understanding announcements and signage.
Ah, yes. Deciphering those cryptic announcements and navigating the maze of signs can be quite a challenge. It's like learning a whole new language sometimes.
I know you mean. I've definitely had moments where I've stood on a platform completely bewildered by the jumble of letters and numbers flashing on the screen.
Yeah.
Any tips for making sense of it all?
Well, first of all, don't be afraid to ask for help. You can approach a station employee and say, "Excuse me, could you please tell me which platform the train to destination is departing from?"
Or if you're trying to figure out which exit to take, "Excuse me, which exit is for landmark or destination?" is a helpful phrase.
Exactly. And if you're struggling to understand an announcement, don't hesitate to ask someone nearby, Excuse me, did they just announce the train to destination?
It's amazing how helpful people can be if you just ask politely. I've found that most people are happy to assist travelers who are trying to find their way.
Absolutely. And remember, even if you don't understand every word of an announcement, try to pick out key information like the destination platform number and any delays or cancellations.
It's like a listening comprehension exercise in real life. Now let's talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Accessibility on public transportation.
Yes, it's essential to ensure that public transport is accessible to everyone, regardless of their physical abilities.
If you require assistance, don't hesitate to ask for it. You can say, "Excuse me, I need assistance getting on off the train bus. Can you please help me?"
Many transportation systems offer services like ramps, lifts, and designated seating areas for passengers with disabilities. It's a good idea to check the accessibility features of the transportation system you're using in advance.
And if you're unsure about the accessibility of a particular route or station, you can always contact the transportation provider for more information.
Absolutely. Now let's shift our focus to a lighter topic, the social side of public transportation.
Ah, yes. The chance encounters, the overheard conversations, the shared moments of commuting camaraderie. It's all part of the public transportation experience.
Indeed. And while it's generally a good idea to be mindful of personal space and avoid striking up conversations with strangers, there are times when a friendly exchange can enhance your journey.
I've had lovely conversations with fellow passengers on trains and buses, sharing travel tips, or simply exchanging pleasantries. It's those little moments of connection that can make public transportation feel less impersonal.
Absolutely. And if you're feeling brave, you can always try striking up a conversation with someone by asking a simple question like, "Excuse me, are you heading to destination?" Or "Is this your usual commute?"
Of course, it's always important to be respectful of others' boundaries and not force a conversation if someone seems uninterested.
Right, reading social cues is crucial, but in general, I think it's wonderful when public transportation provides opportunities for spontaneous interactions.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we're all in this together, navigating the urban jungle as a collective.
Exactly. And with a little bit of language practice and a dash of confidence, you can make the most of your public transportation adventures and even turn them into opportunities for connection and discovery.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our second leg of this public transportation journey. We've covered a lot of ground, from ticket validation to asking for directions to navigating social interactions.
I feel like we've equipped our listeners with a comprehensive toolkit for tackling any public transportation scenario with confidence.
I agree. But our journey isn't over yet. We still have a few more stops to make and some final thoughts to share. So stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some additional tips and tricks for mastering English for public transportation.
Welcome back to Learn English Naturally. We're on the final leg of our deep dive into English for public transportation, and I'm excited to share some bonus tips and reflections.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, from navigating subway systems to mastering bus etiquette, but there's always more to learn.
Absolutely. So let's shift gears and talk about a topic that's often overlooked: the importance of nonverbal communication in public transportation settings. Oh, that's a great point. While words are essential, nonverbal cues like eye contact, facial expressions, and body language can also play a significant role in conveying your message.
For example, making eye contact when asking for directions shows that you're engaged and attentive. And a simple smile can go a long way in creating a positive interaction.
Exactly. It's all about being mindful of how you're presenting yourself. And speaking of nonverbal communication, let's talk about personal space.
Ah, yes, personal space.
Yeah.
A precious commodity on crowded trains and buses.
Indeed. It's important to be aware of cultural norms regarding personal space. In some cultures, it's perfectly acceptable to stand close to others, while in other cultures, people prefer to maintain a greater distance.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced those cultural differences firsthand. I remember being on a packed train in Japan, and everyone was standing shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel intrusive. It was just the norm.
Right. It's all about adapting to the local customs. And speaking of cultural differences, let's talk about the importance of being respectful of local etiquette.
Absolutely. Public transportation etiquette can vary widely from country to country. For example, in some cultures, it's considered rude to eat or drink on public transport, while in other cultures, it's perfectly acceptable.
Exactly. It's always a good idea to do a bit of research before you travel to familiarize yourself with the local customs. And if you're ever unsure about something, it's always best to err on the side of caution.
I love that advice. Err on the side of caution. It's a great reminder that it's okay to observe and learn from those around you. Now let's talk about a topic that's essential for any traveler: Safety on public transportation.
Yeah, safety should always be a top priority. While public transportation is generally safe, it's important to be aware of your surroundings and take precautions to protect yourself.
For instance, it's a good idea to keep your valuables close to you and be mindful of pickpockets, especially in crowded areas.
Right. And if you're traveling alone, especially at night, try to sit in well-lit and populated areas of the train or bus.
And if you ever feel unsafe or uncomfortable, don't hesitate to move to a different seat or alert the driver or a fellow passenger.
Absolutely. Trust your instincts and don't be afraid to speak up. Now let's wrap up our deep dive with a few final thoughts on the joys and challenges of public transportation.
I love that you said joys because despite the occasional delays and crowds, public transportation can be a wonderful way to experience a city.
It's true. You get to see the sights, observe local life, and even strike up conversations with interesting people.
And it's a sustainable and often affordable way to travel.
Absolutely. So as we conclude this episode, I want to encourage our listeners to embrace the adventure of public transportation. Don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone, practice your English, and connect with the world around you.
Beautifully said. And remember, even if you make a few mistakes along the way, the important thing is to keep learning, keep exploring, and keep enjoying the ride.
And who knows, maybe your next public transportation journey will lead you to an unexpected discovery or a chance encounter that brightens your day.
Now that's a lovely thought to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into English for public transportation.
It's been a pleasure.
Don't forget to subscribe to Learn English Naturally for more language learning adventures. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Bye for now.